Hello everyone and welcome back. So as I promised in our previous video, I'm going to walk you through how you can set up your first Node.js server. And in this video, there are some key technologies we are going to look at, which includes Express, Midwest, routes, and many more. So for this and more, let's dive into it. Alright, so at the top here on my desktop, I have backend folder here, and inside backend I have setup folder here, which is currently empty. Okay, so I'm going to type cmd here to open it in my command prompt, and then inside my command prompt I'm going to type code spacebar dot to open it in my code editor for me, and in this case my code editor is VS Code. Alright, so my VS Code is opened, and as you can see here we have our setup folder right here. So I'm going to create app.js here, right? So this is where our server is going to sit. Okay, so as I told you in some of I think in our node models video, Node.js comes with a couple of models, right, which is already made codes which you can import and use it. Okay, so one of them which you are going to use is HTTP. Okay, so I'm going to import it right here, and HTTP is going to help us to set up our server. Okay, so we don't need to install it, it already comes with Node.js. Okay, so we have our HTTP, and then the next thing we are going to do is to specify our custom our host name, our port, and then we move on from there. Okay, so I'm just going to say host name, and then let's give it, I think the general one is 127.0.0.1, right? Yeah, so which is localhost. So and then now we have to specify our port name. So our port number is supposed to be let's use 5,000. I know majority of developers use for 3,000, but let's stick with 5,000 for now. And then the next thing is to set up our server actually. Okay, so I'm going to call it server, and we are going to use the HTTP that we imported, and then inside it we have create server method. Okay, and then we are going to pass in our callback function. So we have our request. Okay, and then we have our response. Okay, so rec just stands for request, and then rest stands for response. Okay, and then the next one we are going to actually set our status code. So let's call it status code, and then let's say 200. Okay, and then the next one, or the next thing that we're supposed to do is set our headers. Okay, so set header, and then inside here there are a couple of headers types. Okay, so we have one which is content type, and then we are going to set it to plain text. Okay, don't worry, this won't make sense for now, but trust me, as time goes on you're gonna find a easy way of implementing this. Okay, so then our last thing is rest end. Okay, and then we are going to say hello world. Okay, great. So I think it's fine for now, right? Then let's end it right here. Okay, so we are setting up our server. So once we run this, we actually get our server up and running, and then we are sending some information to the client. Okay, so once you hit the endpoint, you are sending this information, and the information contains a status code which is 200. We set the header type, or the content, we set header, and we have a couple of headers, right? So for now we are using content type, and we are saying it's just a plain text. Indeed, we are sending a plain text right here. Okay, and then we end it. So this is what is going to return. Trust me, you wouldn't need this in future. I'm just trying to let you know how it works from the beginning. Okay, and then we have our server. So sorry, server const. So let me copy that. Okay, great. So server, and then you have to listen on the port, right? And we already specified the port, so I'm just going to bring the port here. Oops. Port, right? So why did I write type post? Sorry, it's supposed to be port. Yeah, so port, and then we are going to provide our host name, and then we provide a callback function that should run after our server has been able to listen to this port successfully, right? And that is, we are supposed to just console.log some information in our console. And here we're just trying to say, let's say server is running on or at http, just trying to create our link for us. Okay, so http, and then here we are passing the host name to the host name, and then column the server or the port number. Okay, so you are going to see a port that. Okay. So yeah, so this is how we set up our server. I think you just take the time if you use this set up just simple server, and trust me, we are not doing much here. We are just trying to create just a single route. Okay, and see how much that spend us, even though it's just a small line of code. So now let's open our terminal, and inside our terminal we are just going to type in node app.js. Okay, and as you can see, we have information here which says our server is running at port, so he has given us the port, right? So I'm going to open Tender Client. It's an extension in VS Code, so you can just go to extension. So just search for Tender Client, and then you install it. Okay, so it's just like Postman, which we use to test our endpoints. Okay, don't worry, we will dive into all these. Okay, so let me see if I can clear this. Okay, so clear activity, right? Yes. Okay, so now let's create our request. So we click on this new request. Okay, and I'm going to just copy this URL here which we created, right? And then we are going to replace whatever is inside here with that. So we are hitting http / the local host name, and then put 5000, right? And then once we send next, we are getting this, which is hello world, and then we can see the status code here, which is 200, which means okay. So basically we've been able to set up our server, right? And trust me, it took us a couple of minutes, right? What if I tell you there's a better way of doing that? There's a better way of setting up with just a few lines of code as compared to this one. Let's dive into that, right? So let's go back to our folder, right? In here, let's go back inside our backend, and I'm going to create a new folder which is setup 2. Okay, so setup 2, and inside setup 2, let's come back here, do space cd dot just to go back, and then we now dive into setup 2. Okay, and then we are going to open that in our command. We are going to open that in our VS Code. Okay, so let's wait for a second. So let's start. So what you are supposed to do is you are supposed to initialize our npm or initialize our project. Okay, so let's wait for a second. And as you can see here inside our command prompt, our command terminal, I'm going to type npm init, okay, just to initialize, and then now I'm just going to press enter. So they are going to ask a couple of questions here, right? So just press enter for whatever that comes. Okay, for now, I mean yeah. So and as you can see, we have package.json right here. It has been created for us, and we have our project name, the version, the description, and the main, which is index.js, You have our script here. You have our author, which you can put your name here, right? It's Christian, right? Then description, you can see this is our first server setup. I mean, just any description you want to. Okay, now close it, and then now inside we are just going to create our app.js here. Okay, and then now I'm going to show you a better way of setting up your project. All right, so before we set up our project, we have to install a couple of packages. Okay, and then the first one is express.js. So express.js basically is like a framework, okay, which sits on top of Node.js. So it's kind of hide some complexity when it comes to setting up our project or setting up our server and handling or doing other operations. Okay, and we can install that by just typing in npm install. So I just type I for install, right? And then express. Okay, and then let's wait for it to install. All right, so as you can see, we have our node models right here. Okay, and then let's go into our index.js. So let's just wait for it to finish installing, then we will continue. Oh, I'm really tired though, but I have to do this for you guys, right? Yeah, so as you can see, we have our dependency here, which now we've able to install express. Okay, I hope you've already heard about dependency, so I'm not going to waste much time here. If you don't, just go and watch our previous videos, right? Yeah, so we've been able to install that, which is express.js, right? And then we have another one which you are going to look at, which is body parser. Okay, so that one too, we will use it as middleware. Okay, so let's install that one. Okay, so npm, this time I would like to type the full install. So you can use I for the just install, you can type the whole thing. Now I'm just going to type body hyphen parser, right? And then press install. All right, so for now, these are the two key things we will need to express and body parser. Okay, so now we can move back into our app.json and type in const express. Okay, and then we are going to require our express right here. So express, good. And then we are going to also import our body parser. Okay, and then I'm going to type in body parser right here. Okay, so down here we are going to create our app, okay, which is our server. So this is actually our server. Okay, and then now I'm going to use express, and once we initialize our express, we can specify our port. Okay, so port, and then let's use 5,000 or let's use 8,000. Okay, and then the next one is to specify our middleware. Okay, so let me specify it by using use. So app.use. Okay, so whatever we are using here is express, right? So we are just initializing our express. So it's an let me see, object of express, right? So we call it, and then we get a method inside which is use. Okay, so use, and then we pass in our body parser.js or JSON, sorry. And then down here we can specify some routes. So app.get, okay, / and then we bring our request response, right? And then inside it we can say rest.send, then you say hello world, right? And then I'm going to save that, come down here and then type in app.get listening. So our app is listening on. You have to give it a port. So we are going to call our port right here. So it's listening on that port, and then we have our callback function, which we are going to console log. So console log server is running. Uh, what's happening? Or it's running at http dot forward slash, and then we specify the host name, right, which is onto actually onto 7.0.0.1, and then we specify the port name, right? So I'm just going to do that by specifying the port name right here. Okay, or you can just type in a simple message which says server is up and running. Okay, and then I think now we'll be good to go. So this is as you can see, this is quite easier for me, right? You can even just bring this one right here without even need to bring it here, right? And then we just set up our server, and inside inside here we are just getting it. Okay, and as you can see in our previous server, we had to set up some status, set up a lot of things right here, right? Which for this Express has taken care of that. So as I said earlier on, it's hide a lot of complexity when it comes to handling our server. Okay, so now let's quickly run our server. Actually, I'm really tired, so pardon me if you realize my voice is going down. Okay, yeah. So what you are going to do here is I'm going to specify how we should run our project. Okay, so inside my script, I'm going to say start. Okay, and you're going to start by typing node app.js. Okay, so I don't want to be always typing this, right? I want to use the npm to run my script. So I'm just going to type npm run start. So it's just going to run the script for me. Okay, so now let's press enter to run our server. Hopefully we don't get any error. Okay, so our server is up and running. So I'm just going to copy this, go back to my Tender client, create a request for that, then replace the previous URL with that. Let's press enter, and as you can see, we are getting our hello world. Our status code is 200, which is okay. Okay, so this is a simpler, I think much simpler way of handling or setting up our server, right? And trust me, I wanted to continue with this video, but I'm really tired. As you can see, my voice is dying off. So I'm just going to end this video here. In our next video, we're going to look at how we can create an invoice application, right? That is a backend application with what we've been able to gain so far. Okay, and let's do a small comparison here. All right, so before I end my video, I would like us to just compare the two projects. So I have my setup 1 here and setup 2 here. So what is the exact difference, or what is the main changes we've made so far? Now, when you look at this one, for instance, if you want to create a different route, you have to do all of these things again, which here I think is just 3 lines of code, right? But here is almost like 5 lines of code. I mean, setting up with Express is way easier than just going with the raw HTTP method, right? And inside our second one, we have installed some libraries or packages, right? We set up our Express here, and then we are using middlewares here. So I forgot to talk about middlewares, right? So what middlewares are? They are basically interceptors. Okay, so they sit between a request and response. Okay, so we kind of make some changes to our JSON data that will be coming on, right? And trust me, in our next video, we're actually going to dive deeper into middlewares. You will understand it into details. For now, we are just using a get request. We are just implementing a get request. That's why we didn't actually tackle middlewares. Okay, but in our next video, which we are going to build on top of this, we are going to look at why we should use middlewares. Okay, and trust me, it's gonna be awesome. Right now, I'm currently tired. Okay, so I'm going to end the video right here. In our next video, we're actually going to dive deeper into it. But in this video, I'm sure you've really understood how to set up a server with HTTP or how to set up a server with Express. And thank you for watching this video. Happy coding and see you in our next video.